Thank you, gentlemen. Commissioner Ron, would you like to start, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Morning, Madam Clerk. Thank you, gentlemen, for your great breakdown of where our investments are at. I do have a couple questions. One on the, excuse me, on the investment committee, is that something, maybe this is directed to the county attorney, is that something that the clerk office sets up and we have to do by statute or resolution or ordinance, or how does that investment committee get established?
There is, Commissioner, there's a resolution that would have to take place, and we would establish what that committee would do, who would be members. I have a copy of the Pinellas one I can forward to have a framework as well, if you want to take a look at theirs.
Also, within that, it states that we could have a citizen sitting on that.
You could. The recommendation that Pinellas used was a citizen with government finance experience, someone who's familiar with investments.
Okay. Is it also in your statement earlier that what I have here is our investment policy?
Yes, well, proposed. That's proposed.
It's proposed. Mm-hmm. So this has never been acted upon?
No, we actually started that a while ago, and then when 2 years ago, we went ahead and went with the financial investors the financial advisors that the county uses for bonds, PRAG, and we asked them, and we went out and helped in the light of the transition that was taking place. Hey, can you draft this? We asked them to draft this, and they did. And then when we brought on, there was some discussion about it then, and it was not put on an agenda. And then when we brought in the financial investment advisors here, they looked at it too, but it was over here ready to talk about or discuss, but it's been in draft like that since 21.
So, Mr. Chair, I mean, what we have right now is we don't have an investment policy.
Commissioner Ron, we do have the older one, and it's inclusive. It's similar to this one, and we are following the statutes, and we haven't been flying without a policy.
Well, no, I understand that,
Okay.
but I mean, there's been a policy out there. This one has not been voted on by the board.
Right.
Correct? So this needs to come before the board with the changes.
Correct.
That Deep Blue is making for this investment policy.
With PRAG. It's Prague drafted it, and then Deep Blue tweaked it a little because they're the investment experts as well, and there it is. That's the finished.
Okay, so what the recommendations they were making just a few minutes ago are in this policy?
Yes, I believe that's the final draft, and that's
This is the
one
final
that we
draft?
have.
Sir. I don't know which way we need to take it from here, but we need to, I guess, approve this policy at some point. So I guess it needs to be reviewed or come before the board, or what needs to happen. I mean, I'm not saying we're flying without wings, but apparently the policy's been changed, and there's been effective change for some time now that the board's never voted on.
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to address that?
Yes, Mr. Clegg.
So the statute is 2118.415, local government investment policies. They do have to be approved by the board. Mm-hmm. So until the new one that they are explaining today goes to the board and is approved by the board, the old one remains the effective policy by statute.
Okay, all right.
That's correct.
A few more questions. One, in our current policy, much like the state of Florida is doing with our great governor, is divested themselves from ESG and DEI investments. Do the recommendations we have within which will be hopefully our soon new investment policy, are we diversing ourselves from all those type of investments and removing those from our portfolio?
I did discuss that with the investment advisors. I'll let them answer that question.
Well, the shortest way to answer that question is the governor. He is the chief investment officer for the state of Florida. So we're following the state statutes that he has implemented and put in place for the state and local governments.
Are we allowed to, being that the governor is the chief investment officer and he's made these either through statute or whatever, made these changes, do we need to do anything on a local level to ensure that our investments are not going into those type of investment portfolios, either the ESG or DEI type investments? Or does the state statute govern every county in the state of Florida on how they can manage their investment portfolio? Because I just want to make sure, I understand the governor's coming, I want to make sure that on a local level, we understand that our investments are not going into that. So is that something?
Yeah, we have to, your policy has to follow the state. statute. It cannot deviate from that policy. Now, it can be more conservative, but, you know, it cannot be outside what the Florida statutes allow.
So, Mr. County Attorney, is that something we would need to do as a resolution or an ordinance or?
Well, I think you could put something in the policy about it if you were so inclined. The policy can be more restrictive than the state. It cannot be less restrictive than the state, is I think what they're trying to say. So if you wanted to add a statement in the policy about that, you could.
All right, thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, I just want to, we have some new commissioners, so I just want to, understand how we got here without lighting a nuclear bomb. But we had some issues in the past. Has been, communication can be improved between the county commission and the clerk's office. I think we can all agree on that. And we had some issues in the past, and I do appreciate that the clerk has heard essentially the message from the commission that ultimately the commissioner, we are the decision makers here in the end, and we set the policy. I think she's made a good pivot in hiring Deep Blue. I would agree with that. Prior to Deep Blue being hired, I can let the clerk speak to what was happening before that on her own. My understanding is there was a period of time when we didn't have an investment advisor, and we did have a 7-figure loss, which is why she made the pivot, and I'm glad that she did. And if I'm wrong in any of this, please, by all means, when I'm finished, set the record straight. How long is our agreement with Deep Blue is one of my questions. And can you just go over basically the terms of the agreement with Deep Blue?
I didn't bring.
Next on the board is Commissioner Thatcher, and then Commissioner Baugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back to Commissioner Ron's comments, so you mentioned that the governor is the chief investment officer for the state, and so obviously you come into compliance with the guidelines he's putting down, that are passed through, his office and then the legislature as well. But I just wanted to ask so that I get a better feel for the entire, for the background, what moves did that require you to make that you've made since that law came down or that directive came down?
What moves in the portfolio?
Exactly. So,
Right.
So now if a fund is ESG focused, and that's a big part of their investment strategy, which is, ingenious but insidious thing that the left has done, where they're taking over people's investments and forcing them to, invest into companies that are no longer looking out for the bottom line. They're looking out for the spotted cockroach. But really, I want to feel for where you come from as far as, okay, once that came down, were there a lot of funds that you had to get out of? Were there a lot of investments that you had made in that direction? Or was that pretty much par for the course for you?
So our typical investments are treasuries and agencies backed by the U.S. government. And there's, they're pretty plain Jane investments. When we look at, say, commercial paper or corporate notes and bonds, we're looking at the strong companies. A strong company would be, off the top of my head, a Toyota or something like that. But we have, here's one of the things that we can talk about too. We have an approved list of commercial paper providers. We're out in the market looking at, what yield, what kind of service are they providing. If there's someone on the list that we're not going to use, we would definitely let you know that. But we have to follow those state guidelines that the governor's put out in front of us regarding those DEI or the ESG type investments.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Baugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Madam Clerk.
Good morning.
Just a couple of comments and questions. I know that several commissioners have a lot more questions right now than I do. I'm glad that we're doing this. I think the committee's a great idea. And I'm just sorry that it was never done before. But in all honesty, we had a board that didn't want to be involved and didn't ask any questions and just went with whatever they were told. And we did it for many years. I remember it.
Commissioner Ron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Clerk, gentlemen, thank you for being here today. What I'd like to do is there's two things I'd like to see if we can get done. One is do a resolution to support the governor in his diversification of investments out of ESG and DEI type of investments and funds. See if we can put some teeth in that for our investment program. So I don't know how we write that up, if that's to be a resolution or an ordinance. But I would like to, the second thing I would like to do is, I don't know if we need a motion to establish the investment committee. Is that?
So why don't we handle these one at a time? We can't
Okay.
obviously take action in a workshop, but let me just try to get a consensus here and say, does anyone take issue with Commissioner Ron working with the county attorney's office to bring forward a resolution supporting the governor's investment strategies and applying those to the county? Okay, so we don't have anyone objecting to that, so we can take that as a consensus. And then, sir, what was your second one again? I'm
Well,
sorry.
I mean, the clerk's brought before us today to establish an investment oversight committee. And I don't know if that has to be done by, at a board meeting or
It
whatever.
does.
But I think that what we need to do is that establish this committee, oversight committee, review the changes in what's going on with the updated investment policy, then bring that before the board, after that committee's reviewed it, to vote on and make it our official policy.
So does anyone, first of all, take issue with Commissioner Ron working with the clerk and the county attorney's office to establish an investment advisory committee and bringing that to the board for a formal vote? Okay, I think you have the okay to do that as well. And then once you have your committee, then you can bring us the investment policy
Okay.
through the committee.
So the committee can be automatically established.
You need to work with the county attorney's
Okay.
office, bring that to the board and the clerk, and bring it to
Okay.
the board
All
for
right.
a vote.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, thank you.